Good morning, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Wow. I didn't even say anything, but I didn't clap. That's great. So, I am so pleased to be here today. My name is Mary Wells. I'm the current Dean of Engineering here at the for the Faculty of Engineering here at the University of Waterloo. I am just so pleased to welcome all of you back to your alma mater and to, give you a chance to see what we're up to and to hear what you're up to, more importantly. And how many people were at the Rock This Town video last night? Ooh, what a great show, right? That was amazing. I love that. And many of you may have been here during that time when Joe Risha had really started, trying to have some fun here, And we're still after trying to, make our students have some fun. And these students now, as you will see, are highly academic because it's so difficult to get into the University of Waterloo. So you've got to have in the 90s. And I know when I didn't go to Waterloo, but I went to McGill, you had to be in the 80s type thing. So I don't even know if I'd get into Waterloo today myself, but anyway, but many of you probably had those experiences with all those wonderful bands that came back here. So anyway, I'm just gonna be speaking for about half an hour, just to really give you an update on the Faculty of Engineering, the things we're up to, the things we're thinking about for the future. We'll end the talk with things about ChatGPT. How many people are thinking about that? And we thought some of you may have questions about what we're thinking about it, how it may be used, what we're worried about, and things like that. And then I really just want to open it up for questions from you about, the faculty, what we're doing, things you're maybe hoping we're going to be doing, and things like that. So again, we'll just get started. So the first thing I did want to do is just do our territorial acknowledgement. And this is an area that the university is focused on. And I must say our current president, Vivek Goel, has really made a very strong commitment to our Indigenous communities, especially our local communities. And I don't know if, for those of you that may not be aware, I think it was about a week ago, we did announce the opportunity for Indigenous students that are living on the land where the University of Waterloo is situated to be able to receive free tuition to attend programs here. They do have to meet the academic requirements, admission requirements, and so these would be, kids or people from the Six Nations as well as Mississaugas of the credit. So I'm so proud of that. So we've really made a big commitment to that, but really just to acknowledge the land that we're on and that much of the work takes place on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. And our main campus, so the one that we're here right now, is situated on the Haldimand Tract, and that's the land that was granted to the nations and includes 6 miles on either side of the Grand River. And really, our active work towards reconciliation takes place across all of our campuses, and that would be our Kitchener campus, our Cambridge campus, and then our Stratford campus, as well as our main campus, through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and decentralized within our Indigenous Initiatives Office. And you'll hear a little bit more about some of the things we're doing around our commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation Report and really addressing some of those calls to action through that report. So the first thing I really wanted to start off with was, where we're at with our strategic plan. And for those of you, I started in July 2020 as the 9th Dean of Engineering, right in what we had thought was maybe coming close to the end of the pandemic, I guess. We didn't know really what was happening. And so at the beginning, I was known as the pandemic dean. But now, hopefully, that's changing a bit, and I can go beyond that to something else. But really, just before I started, my predecessor, Dean Pearl Sullivan, who many of you may have met and known, she really led the faculty through a strategic planning process that resulted in our strategic plan that really was meant to guide us from 2020 to 25. Now, as you can imagine, we had bold aspirations when we started it in January 2020. Quickly with COVID, some of those things, we did have to pivot and change quickly, and a lot of our attention became focused internally on just allowing our operations to run, allowing our main academic mission around teaching students, trying to be able to conduct research to continue to evolve. And so I did want to talk to you about that. And really at the time, what we had said was that, in our boldest aspirations, as we thought about our students, we really wanted to inspire leaders to define new frontiers, upholding our tradition of cooperative education, which is really one of our signatures, both in Canada but around the world, and defines us and differentiates us from any other university because in a global sense, we are a university that do co-op at scale for a research-intensive university in the largest sense. And so we are unrivaled in that area. And we're top in the world in terms of the scale of our co-op program for a research-intensive university. So upholding our tradition of cooperative education, we will continue to stimulate our entrepreneurial spirit and research imagination. And even right from inception, in terms of the roots of the University of Waterloo, and Waterloo engineering in particular, it was always unconventional. It was always a little more radical. It always did things a little bit differently. And as a result, I think it did attract students that had this entrepreneurial mindset, that weren't afraid to try new things. And again, for those of you that saw this documentary last night, and it was really a reflection of, the music that kind of evolved and came to our campus and our region in the 60s and 70s. It was an engineering student, Joe Risha, from chemical engineering in the 60s, that really started it. And so that was one demonstration of that entrepreneurial spirit, where he really said, I see a need, I see a problem, let's solve the problem in true engineering fashion. And started small with, just inviting a band with a group of students, and it expanded and expanded and expanded over the years he was here as a student here at the University of Waterloo. So even back then, we saw, this entrepreneurial spirit, not being afraid to try something new and different and seeing what happened with it. So, and above all, our engineers and architects, because we do have a School of Architecture within our faculty, are committed to serving society. And for all of you that have studied engineering, you will know that even when we do our Iron Ring ceremony, that really the basis of what engineering is and the roots of it are around serving society and building a better future for generations to come. And how can we turn our gifts intellectually to serving our society to make a very positive contribution in the world. When we look back at that strategic plan, and we're just coming, I guess, to one more year of it really, there were kind of 5 pillars associated with it, some related to our undergraduate learning experience, and really we boldly said we wanted to offer the single best engineering and design education experience in Canada. And what does that mean by the best? But in terms of preparing our students for the future, and we had a number of sub-objectives to try and achieve that. In terms of our graduate students learning, really we decided, we've offered all of our undergraduates these wonderful opportunities around balancing the learnings they do in the classroom to the learnings they have out in the real world, in the workplace. Why not offer that to our graduate students as well? So our focus over the past 5 years has really about being around co-op for graduate students, or what we're calling work integrated learning, because at the graduate level, sometimes it can manifest itself in a research internship at a company or a research institute or something like that. And so really become the world leader in work integrated graduate studies in engineering and architecture. And I must say we have made substantial progress related to that. When we started the plan, we really had no kind of formalized co-op or work integrated learning. Today, as you will see in the myriad list of our graduate programs, we now offer 5 programs in our professional masters, our Masters of Engineering, that do offer an opportunity for our graduate students to go and do a co-op term. And it's been wildly successful so far. And it's building on that brand of that cooperative education. The third area is our research, because we are a research-intensive university, and really thinking about research from imagination to impact. And if I were to characterize Waterloo, I would boldly say it is the most industry-relevant university in North America, maybe even in the world, in terms of our connections to industry. Again, if we go back to our roots 66 years ago, when people were coming together to think about the creation of a new university, there was industry people there right from the start. There were community people there right from the start. It wasn't a bunch of academics thinking about, what should we do? And so it was that partnership between people who were from the academic side, people from industry, people from the community, that came together to think of a very, very different kind of university. So it's all about research impact and how what we do in the lab will have an impactful impact both scientifically, let's say, in terms of moving knowledge forward, but also real world impact, whether it be in industry, whether it be in public policy, or in our communities. So we've really focused on that impact and really become unmatched in bringing transformation from the lab to the world in terms of some of those measures of impact. Number 4 is around our operations. So that's internally, how can we make sure that we're running our operations as well as we can? And I'm just trying to see what resources. Yeah, so our operations and resources. We do have limited resources. So foster a collaborative culture of well-being, empowerment, and sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, we think about it in the broadest sense of sustainability, beyond kind of environmental sustainability. Clearly, we do want to do that in terms of using our natural resources as effectively as we can, but also financial sustainability for the university, sustainability in terms of leadership, so that we have smooth transitions when we transition deans or chairs of departments and things like that. So we think about it both in terms of the people and the empowerment of the people in terms of the faculty and staff, but also our operations and financial stability, sustainability. And for those of you that have been following in Ontario what's been happening since 2018 with the Ford government, the universities and colleges in Ontario have been in a very, very difficult situation. First of all, they lowered the tuition by 10%. And then they kind of capped the enrollment in terms of domestic. And so even though some universities might take in more students, they're not compensated in terms of the extra cost of educating those students. And so we've now been in this for close to 5 years, and we start to see the ramifications and the impact of that on the universities in Ontario, the first being Laurentian, which essentially went bankrupt and had to be taken over and kind of reorganized from a financial perspective. Now, the government has created this Blue Ribbon Committee, which is being chaired by a former provost from Queen's, to really look at recommendations to ensure financial stability and sustainability of the post-secondary education sector. But we are, I would say, entering difficult times in terms of we have rising costs. Our costs rise about 3.5% every year, and yet, in some sense, our revenues are capped. And so how do you manage that into the future? So that's something that we're dealing with right now that's very, very important. And then finally, the fifth one was really around our reputation. And really, one of my jobs as dean, I think, is to make sure that your degrees are all still valuable and well regarded around the world. And so that's really, I feel very strongly, that's one of the jobs of the dean, is to ensure that. And you're all still really proud to say that I'm a Waterloo engineering alum. And everybody I talked to here said, yes, we're so happy. So that's good. But really become the epicenter. She used the word epicenter, and to be honest, when I saw it and we were in the pandemic, I didn't want to be the epicenter of anything, so I didn't love that word. But anyway, I wanted to honor what she had written, the epicenter of the world's technology talent. And I must say, and as you will see in the presentation, we continue to be a destination of choice in terms of students wanting to come here to study, to learn, but also a destination of choice for industry to hire the talent, the people that we are producing. So huge demand for our students and huge demand for our students to come here. So I think we're doing a pretty good job with that. Clearly we can do better. And really, when I think broadly about, what are the kinds of engineers we need over the next 10 to 20 years, I really think we need to go beyond, or to think of the whole engineer, and to not just think about educating them technically. Clearly we want to do that, that's our brand. But because of the intimate relationship we have with technology now, we need to be educating engineers that not only, when they're given a problem to solve, think, can we do it in terms of a technical solution, but also should we do it in terms of the unintended consequences technology may have on our lives, and to think more broadly and have the intellectual ability to think not just the technical aspects, but the broader societal impacts of any of the technologies they create. And so this is one of the challenges that is before us, not just here at Waterloo, but I would say around the world, in terms of the kinds of engineers we graduate for the future. Okay, so now that's where we're at today. Now with our new president, Vivek Goel, who just started about 2 years ago, he's a public health expert, and he's really been leading us through a wonderful exercise around imagining what Waterloo at 100 years old might be like. So typically, for those of you from the corporate sector, and typically, as you will have seen with my last strategic plan, we think of strategic planning in 5-year chunks. And he's really thinking much more longer term and thinking of this longer range planning. So 34 years from now, we will reach 100 years old as a university. And in terms of the university landscape, even in Canada, we're still kind of a teenager. We're not that old, like U of T, McGill, UBC. They're maybe middle-aged, maybe getting a little older, I don't know, but we're kind of a teenager still, so. I love it. I love the idea of really thinking long range, and I put a link up there. You can look it up on our website, Waterloo at 100, and I would encourage all of you to take a look at that document to see if it makes you feel excited and proud about your university and the directions we're headed in. But really, he's identified these, I guess he's called it the 5 futures. And we think about societal, we think about health, we think about sustainability, we think about technological and economic. And really, it's at the interfaces of those different things that a lot of the amazing work, unconventional work, can occur to help us move us forward in a very positive way. And again, we can't think of things just in these silos. Like, again, the engineers, we're just going to develop the technical solution. We can't do that anymore. We've got to think about what is the impact on society. If we think about a health solution, there's so much health tech out there now. But what is the implication between health, between technology, and between society? It's at those interfaces that really wonderful things will occur. And so these are kind of the 5 broad areas that he's defined, and that we're all now thinking about what are the contributions we can make. And to be honest, you know, speaking as a dean of the Faculty of Engineering, I believe engineers can make contributions in all of those areas, especially things around sustainability. I see my chair, Mario, at the back, chemical engineering. This is an area I know he's so passionate about in terms of sustainable energy, sustainability, and what are the roles that engineers can play to help advance us in terms of that. So we're engineers, we like numbers, so I have to give you guys some numbers. So this is just our kind of our complement of our people from 2022 to 2023. We are the largest engineering school in Canada. UBC's coming close now with their Okanagan campus, but we're still the largest. We've got about 8,900 undergraduate students. That's huge. Now, that includes our 6 engineering departments. We've also got a school of architecture. We've also got a kind of a business and entrepreneurship school, but they don't have an undergraduate program. So we've got about 8,900 undergraduate students. Some people are asking me, well, what's the fraction of international students? Still, it is about 12%. We're low compared to places like U of T, which is more like 40% international students. We're about 12%. We've continued to stay low. I think part of it is our history, where early days, because of the mandatory nature of co-op, we couldn't really bring in international students because they weren't able to get the work visas needed to fulfill the co-op requirements. And so we always lagged behind maybe some of our peer universities who more quickly went into attracting and bringing in international students. I believe there's huge advantages to having international students here, mixing and mingling amongst our students, learning side by side, just in terms of broadening the perspective of our Canadian students as well as our international students, letting them develop some cultural competencies, because the world is a global place and we need engineers that can think globally, not just very locally. And so there's huge advantages in terms of the environment, the very rich and diverse environment it creates. But we've still stayed around sort of 12% undergraduate students. I don't think we want to get that high. I would like to get up to maybe 15% or so. And again, a diversity amongst where we take the students from. So, we have a lot of students from China, we have a lot of students from India, not so much from other parts of the world. I would love to see a greater mix in terms of the diversity of the countries we get. I still feel, as a publicly assisted financial institution, we have an obligation to Canadians and Canadian taxpayers, in particular in Ontario. So, and I would never want to see it as a displacement of students here that want to get in, but more as an addition type thing. So I don't think I'd want to get that high. Yes?
We talked a bit about this last week. I think I was telling you that 3 women out of 480 started with me in engineering. Do you have that 88-50 broken down by men and women?
I do. So I'll tell you that. So I don't know if everybody heard the question, but Monty was saying when he went through engineering, there were 3 women out of 500. 480 students, only 3 women. You guys had 1. It's totally different now. How many? 0. Some people had 0. You don't know what you were missing. Women add great things to classrooms. I'm sorry for you. Anyway. Anyway, I do have it broken down, and I will tell you right now that right now we are a leader in the country with how many women we attract to this university and graduate, and it's about 32% right now. So we are really doing well. And I teach in mechanical engineering, and when I first started here in 2007, we only had maybe 10% women in the class. And I said to all the men, you better treat these people pretty nicely because you want them to stay. So they listened to me, and they did treat them with great respect and things. So graduate students, we have about 2,100 graduate students. And when we think about our graduate students, they're made up of our professional master students, the students doing their masters of engineering, the students doing their Masters of Business, Entrepreneurship, and Technology. We have our research students, and they're made up of our Masters of Applied Science, and then our doctoral students, our PhD students. And then, we've got 339 wonderful faculty members. They're so dedicated. I was so proud of all of them during the pandemic. They went above and beyond to try and figure out what to do to help our students continue to learn. And, they were just so dedicated. I'm very, very proud of them. And we've got 242 wonderful staff that really are the glue to help us function properly. So we've got an amazing complement of faculty and staff that are very, very dedicated to our student experience. That's really our big focus. And then all of you guys, we've got almost 55,000 of you guys now, so that's awesome. So continues to grow every year. That's all you guys. That's excellent. What has always impressed me about Waterloo is within a very short period of time, we rose through the ranks to become globally recognized. A top 50. We're in the top 50 in the entire world. That's an exceptional outcome for a publicly funded university from Canada that's relatively small. And that's all thanks to you guys, in part, because you guys have helped enhance our reputation going forward. And our researchers, too. We've got amazing researchers that are some of the best in the world in certain areas. So very, very proud of that. And you should all be very proud of that as well. Okay, in terms of how we're set up operationally, I touched on this a little bit, but we do have 8 academic units in the faculty. So you can see we've got 6 engineering departments. All of you would have been affiliated with one of those departments. In addition, we have a School of Architecture that's a somewhat recent, not that recent, I think it was in 2004, they moved over to be with us from the faculty environment. And more recently, within the last 5 years or so, we also now have a Conrad School of Entrepreneurship and Business that is part of our faculty. And so, although it's rich in engineering, it's also rich in other opportunities that make sense for engineers to collaborate with, especially the kind of business side of it. And so the entrepreneurship side. So the addition of Conrad has really, I would say, accelerated and uplifted all the entrepreneurial activities we do. And we'll talk a little bit more about Conrad. We offer 15 different bachelor degree programs. In the country, we have led in terms of, being bold and radical and unconventional and offering some of the first bachelor programs like mechatronics engineering that others then followed. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And then we offer 45 different graduate degree programs. And these are constantly changing and evolving over time. Yes, go ahead. Geological's there. So no, so it's not in the department name, but I will talk about that. It's an interdisciplinary program between engineering and science. And so there has been some talk about renaming the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering to Civil, Environmental, and Geological Engineering, but that has not happened yet. So, but it is like we don't have a nanotechnology in the name anywhere, but it is still a program. So geological engineering is one example of the way we've approached interdisciplinary programs between various departments and how we've done it. So you will see that in a second. So here it is. There we go. There's our different 15 bachelor degree programs. Where is Geo? That was a mistake. It should be there. It still exists. Sorry about that. Oh, it is there. Okay, it is there. Yeah, there it is. There it is. There it is right there. Geological engineering. So it's our tiniest program, but a beloved little program. So the 2 in purple, biomedical engineering and architectural engineering, are our newest additions to the complement of the bachelor degree programs. In fact, this year, this June, in a couple of weeks, will be the very first graduates from our architectural engineering program. So that just started 5 years ago. Amazing. The first one in Canada, yes.
Could you describe management engineering? Is it sort of got a business?
A little bit of a business. So management engineering is housed within our Department of Management Sciences, and it's really kind of it's kind of like industrial engineering. So it's got a little bit of business, kind of system thinking to it, and looking at businesses and other organizations from that perspective. So it would be like maybe what was known as industrial engineering in other places, but looking at...
That's what U of T calls it.
U of T calls it industrial engineering, we call it management engineering, looking at things like supply chain. So it's really, they've got 3 groups there. They've got kind of an information systems group, they've got an operations research group, and then they've got kind of a management and technology group. And it's that intersection of how humans interact with all those things. So it's a really very strong program. And it's about 10 years old now, so.
What about metallurgy, mining, material science?
So that's interesting. I'm actually I'm a metallurgical engineering graduate from McGill. But so really, mechanical engineering, when I came here, they have a very, very strong materials engineering group. So materials is kind of scattered throughout. There's a big group in chemical engineering. There's a big group in mechanical engineering. And to be honest, nanotechnology engineering, a lot of it is around materials and designing new materials, designing new films and things like that. We have never had a mining engineering program. But again, the geological engineering starts to touch on that a little bit. So right from the beginning, though, we never had a mining engineering program. Yes?
Are you considering adding any more in the near future?
So the question is, are we considering adding any more undergraduate programs? We are talking about it, but because of the constraints around the financial, the government right now, will they fund additional programs? There's all that debate. The one thing I will tell you that Conrad has been looking at is kind of a tech BCom. So you have a business degree, but it's kind of like 40% technical. So you're graduating people that have a very good business knowledge, but also are grounded in terms of the technology. So there is discussion, but it's really in the discussion stages right now. It would be years away type thing. So that's really the one program we're looking at. But it really depends on what happens with the government, and will they allow us, or will they help to fund new programs in terms of the kinds of graduates we need? I'll tell you, part of the reason the government did this corridor system was because of the northern universities. They had very low enrollments, and yet the southern universities, where there was huge demand for them. So it was a way to try and distribute the students a little bit more. It hasn't really worked, to be honest. We still see that in the northern universities, Laurentian, Nipissing, Lakehead and things, they still are under-enrolled. So they tried to kind of force the students to go there, but the students have just gone elsewhere, I guess, or chose not to come or something. So that was part of the incentive for doing that. So it really depends on a lot of that. Otherwise, we would start to have to charge even higher tuitions that are more representative of the actual cost of running the operations. Right now, the tuition is quite a bit subsidized by those government grants and things. So.
Do we still have electives?
We still have electives, yeah. You can still take electives like there's options and things like that. We've got options in AI, options in management science, all these kind of option in entrepreneurship now. So there's still electives. Still, I've told the chairs and directors, Mary will tell you, that we're all on a curriculum diet, so that we've got to reduce the number of courses that are required for our students to take. We're way over what we need, probably 20% over for accreditation of our engineering program, and to open up the curriculum a bit to allow the students to become the kinds of engineers they want to be. Some may still choose to take all those courses, those technical courses. Some may choose to go more breadth, but let's let them choose what they want to do. So we've been talking about this for a year. I said we're going to have a weigh-in this summer to see what progress we're making. So I don't know. We'll see how they're doing in terms of reducing the core requirements in all of our undergraduate programs to open up the possibilities for our students.
Are there any electives that are kind of called, referred to as artsy?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Those are, yes, absolutely. In fact, we have a kind of a Center for Society, Technology, and Values housed in System Design Engineering, which is all about the impact of technology on society. So you could do options in psychology, yes, absolutely. And in part of the degree requirements are a certain breadth in the artsy courses, the humanities, and things like that, which are very, very important, so, yeah. Alrighty, let's move on. So getting back to one of the unique things Waterloo has done is our collaborative programs, which are really our interdisciplinary programs. And for the person who was asking about geological engineering, you'll see it represented here. That's really a collaborative program between the Department of Civil Engineering and then the Earth Sciences Department in the Faculty of Science. Biomedical engineering is housed within the Faculty of Engineering, but it's a collaborative program between 4 of our departments, mechanical and mechatronics, electrical, computer, systems, and chemical engineering had come together because biomedical engineering touches so many of the different departments and is involved in that. Software engineering is probably one of our most competitive programs to get into. That's a kind of a 50-50 split between electrical and computer engineering and computer science in the Faculty of Math. Then we've got architectural engineering, our newest program, which was a really wonderful collaboration between our School of Architecture, which is located in Cambridge, and our Civil Engineering Department. And so in that program, some of the terms the students are actually spending in the Cambridge campus amongst all the architects and stuff. So these are early days. We're learning how to make it work properly and stuff. So, and then nanotechnology engineering, a really wonderful collaboration between chemical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, and then the Department of Chemistry and Science. and then mechatronics engineering. Very, very popular program between mechanical, electrical, and systems. And so really, we were the first in many of these interdisciplinary programs. Things like nanotechnology engineering, we were the very first. And in fact, after we started it, the Professional Engineering Society then defined a field for nanotechnology engineering as a reflection of the importance of that discipline for engineering. We were the first in architectural engineering. In fact, we're the only one in Canada right now that offers that kind of accredited engineering program, similarly with mechatronics engineering. So we've really kind of led the way for many of the programs across the country. Okay, here's all of our graduate student programs. Again, there's lots and lots. You saw there were 45, but really you saw we have about 2,100 graduate students. About 800 of those students are enrolled in what I'd call the professional master's programs. So this includes our Masters of Engineering. We've also got this MBET program, which is a Master's in Business, Entrepreneurship, and Technology. That's really the program that the Conrad School offers. And it was really developed 20 years ago. They just had their 20th anniversary as a different kind of degree than an MBA. And so we did that. And then you can see our Masters of Applied Science. We've got about 500, close to 600 students related to that, scattered throughout all the departments. And then our doctoral students, about 731. One of the things I'd like to do as dean is increase the number of our doctoral students. I really think the doctoral students are a measure of the vibrancy and depth of our research program and are such a critical point. So we're talking internally about incentives and ways to get the best students here to want to do their doctoral degrees, and also to think about their student experience more broadly. Oh, I should say, sorry, I'll go back for a second. I didn't touch on this. We do have 2 graduate programs under development. So again, these are things we're working on, so they may still be some time away. We're looking at kind of a research-based Masters of Applied Science or PhD in biomedical engineering, using that collaborative approach we've done at the undergraduate level, where we have departments coming together to offer a program. They'll still be located in a home department based on where their supervisor is, but this would be the first time the university did this kind of collaborative program. And then the other thing we're doing in collaboration with the Faculty of Science, the Faculty of Health, and the Faculty of Arts is looking at creating a Masters of Engineering related to health technologies. And so some of those courses would be, done by arts in terms of the ethics and public policy and things like that. And then others would be more home-based in terms of the department they're in. So those are exciting new initiatives. Undergraduate admissions by final average. This graph's a little scary for me. Look at the number of students, and then we look over time at the grades. And so you can see we're coming into a situation where a higher and higher fraction of our students have greater than 95%. That's just crazy. And this to me is one of our existential threats for the future, because
Where's the 80 to 90?
it's gone now. I would have never gotten in here. So to keep it in perspective, I do think during COVID, many of the high school marks went up significantly. So I think that's a little bit of a ripple effect from that maybe. But still, last year, for this cycle, they wouldn't have really been they were in class type thing, having in-person exams and stuff. So, but this is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem, because how do you assess someone that's a 95 or a 92? They're all great students. Yes.
Do you guys normalize high schools though for those marks?
We do have a factor. There was a big article, a front page article in the Toronto Star, I think it was around Easter weekend, that came out around the factors we use. And really, we are focused on success of students. So over 40 years, we've gathered data to see, based on entry marks from a high school, what are their marks after the first term? And we see how big is the gap. And so for those that have a bigger gap, it's maybe a 90 at 94 at this high school is not the same as 94 there. And it was a way to try and equalize in a fair way the different high schools and stuff. So, yes.
They take different exams now, don't they? When I went to high school,
Yeah.
there were provincial exams.
Right. There's no more provincial exams.
And, so this is why there's so much.
Exactly, yeah. And we do see some high schools have much, much higher marks than others. And so, yeah.
Are those 95% students different than the 85% students?
No, I don't think they are. No, I don't think they are.
It's just a mark.
I think there has been, I think there has been marked inflation at the high schools. Don't forget too that when you guys went through, I grew up in Quebec, but we would have had grade 13. And grade 13 not everybody went to grade 13. And so suddenly you had the people that were more academically focused on university going, you had a smaller subset, and they started to do the sorting. And so you had lower marks in, I think, is part of it. The loss of grade 13 has led a little bit to this. So we do look at 3 criteria for admission. And I don't want you two young people getting worried about this or like, oh my God, all I can do is study. We'll talk. Don't worry about that. It's better to be a well-rounded person. But we do look at the academic information form, the AIF, to look at what are the other things you're doing besides, this, and we will bump the marks up a little bit. If you're, involved in athletics or music or whatever, or doing things in your community, these are all good things. So I can see you guys are scared. Don't be scared. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, and then I'll get to you.
In my first year, we had a lot of people who failed out in 1A because the transition was very difficult.
And it is still difficult today. It is still, and part of the reason it's so difficult is to have a 95, 99% and define yourself that way. When you get a 60, you feel like a failure. And I keep telling them all, 60 is the new 90, not just for the students, but for their parents. Like the parents are also devastated. I'm like, oh my gosh, so.
High school prep to get in, it's not very different, that dynamic.
No, I don't think so. Okay, I didn't hear what you said, but anyway. Yes, sorry.
Obviously, a lot of people here would think it's very worrisome to see those numbers like that.
Yeah.
Has the schools thought about using different metrics as opposed to this as your first metric?
Yeah, no, we are talking about it.
I'm sure
We are thinking about it because,
student
yeah.
to a 90 student,
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is.
No, exactly.
What have you thought about?
So we are. So we do have 3 things now beyond marks. So for a long time it was really just marks and the AIF. We also now include a video component, partially because all students do need to get a co-op. So their ability to speak, communicate, things like that. And we really want to make sure that the students that are coming into engineering understand what it is, and it's really them that want to do it and not their parents. Because we do have a certain small, I hope, fraction of students that are there not because they love engineering, but because their parents want them to do engineering. And so those are difficult conversations. It's probably still the most demanding undergraduate program you can take. And if you don't have that passion for it, it's really hard to study, 3-4 hours a day for something you don't love. So we really want them to be sure this is what they want to do. And part of the video is to try and get at that a little bit. Do you know what engineering is? Do you really want to do it? And things like that. All we want to do is make our students be successful. That's really what we're looking for. So, yes.
When I was here in 63 to 68,
Yeah.
in the first year we had 40 hours of classes.
Yeah.
What is it like now?
Well, it varies program to program. I would say I think the most demanding program is electrical and computer engineering. They have the highest numbers. I don't know what it would be. I don't know, Mario, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have any sense of how many hours a week in class it is for the students? Or?
About 27, 28 hours.
28 hours, but then we've got labs and tutorials on top of that? Or? So 28, 29 hours of class. And typically, so it's less than you guys, okay? All right. But we typically advise them that every hour you're in class requires 2 hours of study outside of class. That's what we typically advise them to be a successful student. So anyway, okay. Oh, sorry, yes, go. Oh, did somebody want to ask a question? Sorry, I see your hands up. Did you want to ask a question at the back? Okay, all right, you're doing the wave. All right, well, we can organize ourselves if that's what you guys want to do. All right. Oh, sorry, yes, I'll go back.
Question about your statistics here. Those are Canadian admissions, are they correct?
I believe those would be Canadian admissions,
Not any
yes.
statistics for non-Canadian?
It's hard to say there. Yeah, I'd have to look at it, but we kind of treat the 2 pools separately. So if we say we want 12%, we're not kind of conflating them. So we just look at our Canadian pool. For the international pool too, it's very, very high. I can find out for you, but I don't know what it would be, but it's incredibly high too. And so we have huge demand for this. So, this past admission cycle, we just, all the offers were made. We just had all the confirmations a couple of days ago. We had like 15,000 students apply for 1,800 spots. So that's what I mean about it being a real destination choice. Again, don't get scared, you two. We'll talk later. But it's a destination of choice. People want to come here, predominantly for the co-op, but I hear more and more other reasons. I just heard a case, a young woman did not choose Western with a $50,000 scholarship to choose biomedical engineering at Waterloo because of the co-op, but also she said, I want to be pushed. And she looked at all the courses, she said, this is where I want to be. I want to be pushed in what I'm doing. I want to be at the leading edge of what I'm doing. So I'm like, oh boy, we gotta deliver for that girl. Like we didn't offer her a $50,000 scholarship. So anyway, so I'm looking forward to meeting her. And yes.
ECE the largest department now?
Yes, ECE continues to be the largest department. It's got close to 100 faculty members. The next largest would be mechanical and mechatronics engineering, which is kind of 60 or 70. So they're kind of our two big departments, and then we've got some medium-sized departments after that. So, alrighty. So women in engineering, Monty, you were asking about that. This is our first year enrollment by undergraduate program, and we're doing well. We're doing really, really well. We still see that some programs of engineering are very, very appealing to women, including architectural engineering. Close to 60% of that class is women. Biomedical is 70%. We're gonna have to do some outreach programs to boys for biomedical engineering to get the numbers balanced. And then the more traditional programs like mechanical engineering, computer, electrical, still are a little bit lower, but we're doing well. I mean, to have 20 to 30%, you're at a tipping point where the environment has changed compared to if you had 0, well, 1, 2, 3 in a big class. And so we're doing very well. So overall about 33%. So we are a leader in the country in terms of what we're doing.
How big is your first year class now?
The first year class is about 1,800.
No, I mean in each, like electrical
Oh,
engineering.
okay, I took that out. So electrical engineering, we'd have 2 cohorts, so probably about 200 students in electrical engineering. But then we split into 2 cohorts.
streams.
2 streams. Well, so electrical engineering for a long time was 2 streams. What's happened in electrical is there's been a decline in interest. So just recently we switched to just 1 stream for electrical engineering. Partially to many of them were doing first year in electrical engineering, but then moving into computer engineering. So we're looking at that. We need electrical engineers around power, around semiconductors and things like that. So I actually think there's going to be a reversal and there's going to be more and more interest in electrical engineering. And I'm starting to hear that from the students as well. So, but not just at Waterloo, but across the continent, there's been a decline of interest for students in electrical engineering, partially driven by the opportunities in software engineering, computer engineering, and the very, very large salaries associated with that, I think. So there's kind of a supply and demand issue. Okay, just a couple more slides. So ranked top 50 in the world, just about research a little bit. Again, we've got 22 Canada research chairs. These are kind of a testament to our research stature and our research excellence and things like that. We've got 16 university research chairs, 5 endowed chairs. And so what does a chair mean? A chair means that you are provided, you are an exemplar researcher, and you've done so well with research. We want to provide you with some more funds to allow you to continue that research. And in some cases, we will change your distribution of effort. So you may be, for a time, doing a little bit more research and a little bit less service or a little bit less teaching to allow you to really advance that field of knowledge. And so you can see all the chairs we have. This just gives you a sense of the kind of scale of what we do. We attracted $72 million in research funding. So we've got a very, very vibrant research program. We have hired some amazing young faculty members. And so we've got 62 early research award recipients. Again, they've distinguished themselves in terms of their cohort of early researchers to already be kind of rising stars in the research scape. So we've hired very, very well. We've got 1,000+ industry project partners. This, again, is going back to the industry relevance. In all sectors, we are the place to go for industry. And so we have these partnerships with industry to help them solve the problems that they're interested in. So again, it goes back to the industry relevance. And again, we have, kind of 471 unique industry partners in a variety of sectors. Yes.
How are you managing the need for short-term innovation that pays off now versus the long-term innovation that will pay off? We are benefiting from 100-year-old research.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great, great question. And I hadn't covered in this, but I will cover it now. So when we think about exactly what you said, this university really punches above its weight in terms of entrepreneurship and kind of commercializing innovation. And a lot of it's being done in kind of the software, kind of the fast tech area, I would say, where you don't have huge barriers to needing infrastructure, pilot plants, or anything like that. So we've done very, very well. But we do need to think about the investments that need to be made in some of the most difficult problems we face around climate change, the need to move to clean tech. These require more time and more investment. So some of the things we're thinking about is things like the Entrepreneurial PhD program, which is a new program we launched last September. It's kind of a pilot to provide those doctoral students that are studying things for 4 years in a very deep way, to commercialize what I would call deep tech research. And so this is research or technologies that have to be de-risked by developing the technology further. And so we allow these students now, with the support of their supervisor, to both pursue their doctoral studies, but also in parallel, one of these part-time MBET degrees. So they learn about the business alongside and in parallel with what they're doing on the research front. And you know, we just had one student, he wasn't in it, but he just graduated and he started, I think it's called Ribbit. It's came out of his, well, he just graduated his PhD, but it's about electrifying planes, bush planes, and so he's doing that now. He just graduated a couple months ago. So that's one thing we're doing. So we have 10 per year. We're doing it for the next 2 years. And then the other thing we're looking at under the leadership of a young faculty member in chemical engineering, Valerie Ward, is again, thinking about the area of biotech as one example of deep tech, and how do we create opportunities for PhD students to de-risk the technology and advance the technology, but with the end goal being they want to commercialize it. So we are doing that. We may get involved with a partnership with SFU. They offer a really fabulous kind of co-curricular series of courses that we could do for both PhD students, but then also postdocs. So we are looking at moving into what I would call the deep tech space and really advancing technologies for the future that could be commercialized. And we really want to make Canada a leader in this. Now, Canada is a leader in AI, I would say, in terms of startups. And in fact, we have the largest concentration of AI startups in the world, I think, here in the what we call the Waterloo-Toronto corridor. If you're at Toronto, they'd call it the Toronto-Waterloo corridor, but here we call it the Waterloo-Toronto corridor. Anyway. Okay, so just a couple of updates in terms of operations. For those of you that are from the Department of Management Sciences, we've spent the last year thinking about their name and what they do. And as a group, they decided to rename their department to the Department of Management Science singular. That was a big debate of a few days. Sciences to science, but we've decided on science and engineering. And it's really to reflect the kind of programs they offer, where half their graduates now are management engineering students. So it's going to go through our Senate on June 19th. I don't anticipate any problems. So by this time next year, it will be renamed to that department. The other thing is, in terms of leadership changes, we have Scott Walbridge, who's now being appointed the chair of Civil and Environmental Engineering. There's a picture of him on the far left. He's a wonderful chair. He just started November 1st. He took over for Carl Haas. Mark Hancock has been appointed the interim chair of Management Sciences. He's in the middle. And then Myra Brzezowski has been appointed the interim O'Donovan director of our School of Architecture. So those two searches for Management Sciences and Architecture are ongoing right now. We're close to completing the School of Architecture. We're probably about midway through the one for Management Sciences. So again, this time next year, those new people will have been appointed. Notable achievements. Again, this is the awesomeness of our faculty members. These are some of the highest accolades you can have nationally and then maybe even internationally. But Dr. Carl Haas from Civil Engineering, named to the Royal Society of Canada. That's really the highest body in Canada to recognize scientific achievement and accomplishment. We had Dr. Monica Elmelko from Civil Engineering and Dr. Carolyn Wren from Mechanical Engineering being named to the Canadian Academy of Engineering. This is really the highest body in Canada around engineering achievements and application of engineering into our communities. And then Dr. David Fortin, who's a fairly recent hire. He's our very first Indigenous scholar. He's an architect by training and has his PhD in architecture. He was named an Aspiring Innovator of the Year by the Coalition of Innovation Leaders Against Racism, CELAR. And then Dr. Tiz McConan in Chemical Engineering was also named to that area. And then Dr. Feridun Hamdallapur, who was our former president, was named to the Order of Canada. He's actually a faculty member in the Faculty of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering. So we're very pleased to celebrate that with him. And then finally, I guess most recently, one of our fourth-year civil engineering students, Naomi Say Abomo, won the Canadian 3M National Student Fellowship Award. That was a very, again, a national award. Very first time one of our students has won it. So really, yeah, awesome. Civil engineering is doing well.
One of the female professors give us a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, so the question is about a fee. Yes, absolutely. That was a few years ago. She is an engineer by training, but she's in the Department of Physics. That was Donna Strickland, who was given the Nobel Prize, the third woman to ever win that award. That was a couple of years ago now, though, but that's one of the top accolades. Clearly, it's a top prize for science and things. Okay, so it is, again, we are known, well, we like to say we're known as a top entrepreneurial university. And these are some measures. I mean, based on money, our students have developed 4 unicorns. So that means they reach to $1 billion valuation. Private companies created by students or alumni. We are considered the #1 venture-backed capital student entrepreneurs in Canada. So it's really part of our signature. And when you look at the amount of money that our alumni and students have been able to raise to start companies, in the order of $27 billion. And that's just some measure of the economic wealth that is created and generated through this activity here. And so we've got to create students that are, interested in those kinds of things as one measure of impact. I don't want to underestimate the social entrepreneurship impact, although we don't have metrics around that yet, but there's different kinds of impact. Okay, and so again, in terms of what's happened is, we've had 1,000+ startups. And so Waterloo students, researchers, and alumni have founded over 1,000+ startups, spin-offs, and mature companies. That's amazing. And I must say, when I graduated in the 80s, if you couldn't get a job, that's when you went into entrepreneurship. It's like kind of the worst students, because nobody wanted to hire them. But today, it's the opposite. It's the best students, the most courageous, the top students that want to become entrepreneurs. So it's really changed around in the last couple of decades. So. All right, I see we put Waterloo, Toronto Tech Corridor, not Toronto, Waterloo, anyway. It's really, right now, we have the largest concentration of tech companies and startup activity in all of Canada right now. We've got 5,000+ startups, 300,000 employees, and right now, 8% of the total workforce employed in tech and it's similar to the talent density as Silicon Valley. So it's huge. We're on this trajectory now where really great things are happening, and we're really making a name for ourselves. And we are #1 in clean tech ecosystem and the fintech ecosystem, and also the AI ecosystem in terms of startups. So we have an opportunity here in Canada to really capitalize on that and educate the next series of engineers and other people that really want to help accelerate that. And so there is a saying in Waterloo, Cali or bust, and those are the students that want to get their co-op job in California. Partially, I think, because of the financial inducements, but also the network they tap into. So I really want to change that narrative to true north or bust. Like, stay here, help our startups grow, and give your talents to Canada. So I do see changes in what the students want to do. Just a little bit on Conrad, because many of you may not be familiar with it, but the Conrad School of Entrepreneurship and Business, they have been offering this MBET degree for 20 years. It just had that 20th anniversary. We are the only engineering faculty with an embedded business school in North America. So this gives us a huge advantage in terms of capitalizing on that wonderful synergistic relationship between engineering and business. And so we're really trying to find ways to create that connective tissue between those academic units. So they do offer an undergraduate option in entrepreneurship. As I said, they offer that Master's of Business Entrepreneurship and Technology. They just got approved to offer a new PhD program in entrepreneurship and organization. I think it's the first in Canada to have a PhD specifically in this area. So they will be taking students in, maybe not this September, because it just got approved like a couple of weeks ago, but maybe the next September or next year to that program. So we're super excited about that. They also offer a graduate diploma in business and entrepreneurship. And as I said, we just started this entrepreneurial PhD fellowship where we've got students in doctoral programs across the university that are entering into this. Yes?
Who is Conrad? I'm guessing that's not him.
No, it's not him. So it's the Conrad family. They're a local family. Manfred Conrad is the name of the father, but they have been big kind of land developers, real estate developers. So that is one project I am working on, which is kind of the history of the faculty. So we've interviewed all the former deans, and we put it into our university archives, but it's really to infuse our spaces around the people that have named different things. And so, working with an oral historian to capture those histories. So as you walk around our spaces, you see we do have some name spaces, and if any of you are interested in naming a space, I've got some people you can talk to at the back. I'm just joking. Yeah, it does cost a little bit, not too much. We're competitive with other universities. Anyway, I'm just joking. But so, so we are going to meet with the Conrad family to talk to them. So when you go to the Conrad hub on the second floor, there'll be a QR code, and you can hear their voices and what is their background? Why did they invest in Waterloo? What did they see? So anyway, But they invested early on. They were a little startup. They invested $5 million, and now this has grown to something. And that's just a real bargain, for the size and scale, scope, and where its trajectory for what it's going to do. So it's amazing. Yes.
Because of political climate, Waterloo had, University of Waterloo has cut off all the research backed by China now, right?
Right.
Is there any change you can perceive?
So yeah, we have a lot of researchers here and we were encouraged, in fact, to develop relationships with China by the government and stuff. So you're right, there are a lot of geopolitical tensions right now. For those of you that have seen the news, we would have severed ties with Huawei. And so it's an evolving situation, I think. So this is the first time in my history as a researcher we're seeing many, many more concerns about research security. And so we're looking at, so part of it's driven by the companies and concerns over where the knowledge is going. And so I would say it's an evolving field, but it's been very difficult for our researchers, I would say, especially those that did have strong connections to China and things. So we're working with them. We've now hired a research security specialist to help work with the researchers to figure out what are other sources of funding. Many of our faculty members, Huawei was a great partner, to be honest, because they just gave us some funds and said, go have fun and do what you want, And they, everything was published openly and stuff. And so they were unrestricted. That's like the best money a researcher can have. And now that's being cut off. So there's no replacement in Canada. There's no company in Canada that's similar to Huawei in that sense. So I would say it's been very difficult. So, and it continues to evolve and change.
But those researchers are still staying with the university.
Oh, yeah. No, we want them. They're amazing researchers. No, we, I will say a couple of researchers have left because they wanted to, because there's been offers in China that we can't match in terms of research funding, in terms of opportunities at another university there. So in some ways, I think China's kind of happy because they're taking, they may say, well, it's hard for you to get research money in Canada, come be with us. So, but no, these researchers are amazing. They're all still here that want to be here. So yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, there's some of the questions. We're coming. Okay, equity, diversity, inclusivity. I realize we're coming close to the end, but I just, this is a big focus for us in terms of, in a very authentic way, changing the diversity in our classrooms, because the more diverse classrooms, research clearly shows the better the outcomes will be, and the greater it will expand our own mindsets. When you hear different people talking about different things and giving different ideas, it really helps you be more creative and stuff. So we're looking at kind of enhanced wellness supports for the students. And I must say, COVID was very, very hard on our students. I don't know how you guys are doing. You look pretty good to me, but some of the kids are not okay in our programs now. So their ability to socially interact with each other is being compromised. We need to, and it was, for those of you that went to show last night, we need human connection and real connections. We need communities and we need human connections. And so how do we do that? How do we help support our students through a difficult transition when, especially the young men, I must say, they're a little bit of the maturity gap. Like, I have a son who's 20, and so maybe I'm speaking from personal experience, but the maturity gap in general between a young man and a young woman at 17 is big, where the women tend to be on average a little bit more mature. The boys catch up within a year or two. Some may take a little bit longer, like my husband. He's still on his path to maturity. I'm just joking, he's wonderful. I'm glad he's not here. But just give the boys a chance. And again, with grade 13, it gave them that chance. With the loss of grade 13, I really think the boys are at a disadvantage. So I'm worried about that. That's something that makes me worry a little bit. How do we help that, and how to interact properly with each other, especially with COVID? Some of the kids don't know how to interact properly with each other, how to interact in a team and things like that. So anyway, so enhanced wellness supports. We've just moved to gender inclusive washrooms. So all of our buildings on campus just have one washroom that's gender neutral now, which is an initiative. We now have an Indigenous garden space outside the building, and we have a dedicated prayer room for those students that do need a quiet space for their faith and things like that. These are all good things to help enhance the spiritual life of our students, which they need. I think they really need. So. We now also have an elder in residence, Elder Bill. So he's an Indigenous, he's recognized as Indigenous elder in his own community, Six Nations. He's a PhD in architecture. And so we brought him in to help our community to, in maybe a more gentle way, infuse Indigenous ways of knowing and being. And so many of the faculty members have gone to see him and talk to him to learn more about what it's all about. So it's been amazing. We've also done some things around outreach. We have had a big focus on Black youth outreach because when we looked at our population of engineering students, we had a very, very low representation of Black students relative to the population. So we've had a little bit of a focus on outreach. And so we've got a partnership with Brainstem Alliance and the Caribbean Canadian Association of Waterloo Region. And it's really just to allow those students to see themselves and see role models that are like them, to let them think about being engineering. And I'm really all about diversifying our applicant pool. We're not doing anything around admissions to preferentially bring in women or these other diverse communities, but it's really about diversifying our applicant pool. And the other thing we started and led across the country was this I Bet PhD program. And on the far left at the back is Professor Tiz McConan, who you saw has been recognized for some of his leadership. But it was really about a pathway for doctoral studies for Black and Indigenous students. Because again, when we looked at our professoriate, we had one Black faculty member, Tiz, out of the 340. That was it. Clearly not representative of the Black communities in Canada. And so how do we change that? So the university did do a Black excellence cluster hire. So we managed to hire 3 amazing Black professors out of that. So we've got 4 Black professors now, 1 Indigenous professor. But it's really creating that pipeline. And so again, not kind of in an abundance mindset, adding to the number of doctoral students. So we created a series of fellowships so that more and more students could go into doctoral studies. So we're not displacing anybody else, we're adding to the doctoral pool, which is a great thing to do. And that's just a picture of them across Canada. We've got like 40 of them now across Canada. So they'll create that pipeline for the future. So really successful program. And the other thing we did, and we just met them all yesterday, is last year when the horrific invasion of Russia and Ukraine happened, all these students that were in their studies were suddenly displaced. They were on their way to achieving an engineering degree, a computer science degree. Oh, we'll have to turn on the light in the back maybe. Anyway, but they were all displaced. So we worked with the U of T, and last summer we brought in, I think, 27 students from the Ukraine for a summer internship program. Many of the students stayed and are now enrolled in master's programs and PhD programs or worked. And this summer, we did it again. And I have a faculty member in mechanical engineering, Serhiy Yarusevich, who did study in the Ukraine at Kiev University, who really has led the whole thing. And we just met them all on Thursday. These students are amazing. There's 37 of them here. We have a partnership with WSIB, who took 10 into their internship program, so they're actually working at WSIB. And then 27 are here working in a number of different labs with our professors. And I was talking to our professor, said, what's your sense of the Ukrainian students? They just said, they're really, really smart. So they're all excited and stuff. And I said to the No, we did, last year we didn't do it, and we did find that their English, they couldn't communicate, so we actually put them in intensive language training, and so that took a little bit longer time than we thought. But those people, their language is very good kind of a year later. These ones, because that was an unintended problem, we actually kind of interviewed every single one of them to make sure that their language was sufficient enough so that it could be a very meaningful experience for them. So I met and talked to many of them. They were outstanding. And I said, what's one thing that surprised you about Canada? So one of it was all the geese. And I said, don't touch those geese. They're ferocious. They're like, we want to pet them. I said, no, don't do that. And they said, the food is expensive here. And I said, we all think the food is expensive here. And they're staying at United College together, so they've met each other. And the principal there, Rick Myers, did say they do eat a lot. So they like to eat. I said, I like you guys. You like to eat. I like to eat. Anyway, we're super excited to have them here for the summer. And then ChatGPT, and I know we're going over time now, but really, I thought some of you might be wondering about what's happening, what we're thinking about it. But using ChatGPT or similar tools that generate text code or visual images for content generation of one's own original work is a violation of the university's policy 71. So we have adapted our policy just to let students know what the boundaries are. And so you can't just use it and not attribute where some of that content came from. We have seen some cases, mainly in computer science, last term, of cheating, let's say, where ChatGPT had developed their code for them instead of them doing it themselves. We are starting to see a little bit in engineering now, but I think it's about education of the students that use it as a tool, like a calculator or something like that. So this is kind of an emerging field. Yes?
What percentage of the students that started 5 years ago would graduate this year?
What percentage of the students? So I'm not sure. I don't have the number. I can find the number for you, but traditionally, I think it's like in the 90%, like 90 percentile. So it's pretty good. With COVID, though, those numbers maybe skewed a little bit. Some people didn't want to learn online, so they might have backed out. I don't know, but I could find out for you to see what it is.
Changed over time.
Yeah, we find that even just the success between first to second year, we've done a lot of work to make sure it's, it's been lower. 10, 15 years ago, it was in the 20%. That was after the loss of grade 13, yeah. Because they weren't teaching the math that they should have been, and we should have worked more closely with the high schools, so they were coming in with deficits of knowledge in math, and so they weren't doing very well. But we've adjusted our curriculum now and done a lot of work to support that transition, so. There's still more work to be done. Some programs are worse than others, so we're still working on them. Yes?
When I started, they said, look to your left, look to your
Yeah.
right. They won't be here.
Yeah.
I said, don't look at me. They start off at 166, and we're doing
Yeah.
66.
Yeah, yeah.
They came out to be true.
No, and that's very sad. So I did do that same kind of speech to the first years last September. I said, look to your left, look to your right. These are the people that are going to help you through. So anyway, oh my God, I'm very emotional. Anyway. So it's a different mentality now. Like, I will tell you, I am moving it more toward collaboration. I've stopped the rankings, so nobody knows I'm number 1, I'm number 2, I'm number 3. They can still see where they are, but it's not like this hyper-competitive environment that fuels competition. But I really want to create a more collaborative environment for them. And that's about wellness and stuff, so. Okay, Prachi, should I be stopping here? Yes, at the back.
When we graduated in 93, they started an engineering endowment.
The Waterloo Engineering Endowment Fund? We've.
Curious how large it is now.
It's over 20 million, I think. Is that right, Prachi? Or somebody here? The WEEF endowment.
Yes, over 20 million.
Amazing that you guys did. A thing that you guys started. That's amazing. They will have a table here. They do have a table here. Yeah. Talk to these people. They're so proud of it. And it does help support, enhancements to the learning environment for the students. So it's been amazing. So should I just wrap it up, Prachi? Okay, we're going to wrap it up now. This is just something we're looking at around trust in science and technology, led by Donna Strickland, our Nobel laureate in physics. But thank you so much. I'm sorry I went over time, but thank you so much for your attention. Okay. All right. I think you guys have another class or something to get to, or I don't know what. Yes. Oh, there we go. Yes. And a calculator. Yeah.